I've already made a video in the past discussing the true nature of the Nemetrix, and how its various catalogue of predators aren't actually the natural predators of their so-called Omnitrix prey species. With that knowledge in mind, it's clear to me that the Nemetrix simply functions off what species could be advantageous against other species, rather than the exact natural predators hailing from the same worlds as another species. But for the sake of discussion, let's disregard this personal theory of mine, which again I backed up in that previous video if you're interested, and today, let's discuss something that I know a lot of the Ben 10 fandom have thought about in the past. If Kuiper went out of his way to gather a DNA sample for a species intended to be the predator of a human, what species would end up being the best for the job on our own world? If you enjoyed today's video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing, and maybe checking out some of my other Ben 10 videos. I have a whole playlist of my other Ben 10 discussions, and a fair number of my subscribers tell me that these videos are actually pretty binge-worthy, so, you know, maybe check it out. But with all of that said, and without further ado, let's get right into it. It's hero time! So, to start us off, we first need to consider the actual attributes of humans before we consider what species could be best suited to hunting them. This may sound difficult at first, considering that most humans these days are seemingly just useless sacks of fat and G-fuel, but by the end of this video, I'm sure we will have a conclusive answer. So, humans typically range from around 5 feet and 9 inches for males worldwide, and 5 feet and 4 inches for females worldwide. Due to their relatively large size, our predator is unlikely to be something small, as larger predators need to eat larger meals in order to sustain themselves, thus making humans a more tantalizing food choice option.
You know, it doesn't matter if you choose left or right, because they're both chewy, crunchy, and delicious.
That being said, most large animals do not actively hunt humans despite their relatively great portion size, though there are a few exceptions that we will discuss later on in this video. The average human male's running speed is roughly 13 kilometers per hour, whereas the average human female's running speed is roughly 10 kilometers per hour. So we're looking for a predator that can easily match and or exceed such speeds. On top of that, the average professional sprinter can move at top speed for around 30 to 60 seconds before fatiguing. So this is a factor as well. We need to consider an animal that can, at the very least, keep up the chase long enough for the human to tire out. Again, this is only professional sprinters, so the average person is likely to perform much less impressively, so that makes things a little bit easier. Though humans do not possess anything like sharp claws or sharp fangs, their opposable thumbs allow the ability of toolcraft, which grants them the capability to produce a variety of different weapons for use against predators. As such, we have to consider a predator who can survive several attacks from such tools and or render such tools entirely useless. Some humans also possess martial arts training, but considering that martial arts are typically invented for the explicit purpose of human versus human combat, I highly doubt that such training would be effective when coming face to face with nature's favourite war machines. We also need to consider human behaviour, as a vital part of predation is knowing how your prey acts and how best to corner it. For the sake of this point, I tried to boil down human nature to as simple of a degree as possible, and I've ended up with what I like to call 3 key types of humans, so to speak. The cautious,
Zoinks! It's the game!
the brave,
I am here!
and the degenerates.
For anyone who doesn't know how penises work,
Cautious humans are quiet, stealthy, and will aim to run rather than fight. Brave humans are confident in their skills and will thus either attempt confrontation or try to distract the animal somehow. Degenerate humans will fuck anything they come across. No, really, they'll fuck anything if they're horny enough. It doesn't matter what these humans try to do in a scenario where they're being preyed upon, because they'll most likely take it as an invitation for free Discord Nitro in return for thigh pics. Someone out there feels called out right now, and I don't know how that makes me feel. With this information, our predator of choice will have to be one that can either adapt to the behavioural differences of each type of human prey, or one that can just outright dominate all three regardless. A majority of humans are native to rural and industrial habitats, and congregate in large numbers, so we have to consider a predator that can both traverse such environments effectively, but also find a predator that can comfortably take on several humans at once. More disadvantages of humans are their relatively poor eyesight while in darkness, so night vision would serve useful here, as would the ability to either climb or knock down high vantage points, as some humans are known to flee upwards into areas like tree branches in order to escape predation. On top of that, our predator needs to be one that can actually instill fear in a majority of humans. For example, a large number of the human population are absolutely terrified of spiders, so we would need to find a predator that a majority of humans can agree that they're scared of, as one of the natural human responses to fear is simply to freeze up, which would be invaluable to a predator, not to mention that fight or flight responses typically result in failure due to the fact that instinct takes over rational thought. Finally, humans are relatively durable creatures, so we need a predator with enough muscle and or deadly natural weapons in order to wound the human hide and damage the human internals. So, amassing all of our points together here, what we need is a predator that exceeds 5 foot 9 inches in height, actively wants to hunt humans, exceeds speeds of 13 kilometers per hour for a span of time greater than 60 seconds, possesses strength and durability great enough to destroy human toolcraft and resist attacks by human toolcraft, is big and bulky enough to render martial arts techniques useless, is smart enough to understand / adapt to / outsmart human behavior, can traverse residential settlements with ease, can survive an encounter with multiple humans at once, can see somewhat clearly in the dark, can skillfully climb / knock down vantage points in order to reach humans, possesses strength great enough to damage human flesh and bones, and instills fear in a majority of humans. This may seem like quite the tall order, but we actually have a good few candidates for this, so let's go over those now. So, first and foremost, we need to discuss which animals actually want to hunt and kill humans, which significantly thins the herd of our options. Most recorded man-eating animals are either lions, tigers, leopards, polar bears, or large crocodilians. However, these aren't necessarily our only options, as the number one killer of humans annually are actually mosquitoes, which isn't strictly a man-eater but does feed off human blood. There are also animals like the hippopotamus, which kill roughly 500 people every year in Africa. However, hippos do not eat people, but rather simply kill any humans that impose on their territory, so they kinda don't count here. Basically, Moto likes you when you back the fuck up. As such, our scope is somewhat broadened, as our top human killers aren't necessarily the top contenders that I mentioned before. So, with that in mind, I decided to search outside the lens of these highlighted predators, and instead search for a predator a little under the radar which could meet absolutely all of our requirements, as some of these other top predators simply could not do. My final answer was, as may not be a surprise to some of you, grizzly bears. Let's look over our criteria. The average grizzly bear stands at 3 to 5 feet tall when on all fours, but can reach an astonishing near 9 feet tall height when standing on their hind legs. Considering that the tallest human alive today, Sultan Kosen, is only 8 feet and 2 inches tall, this means that the largest human alive is still smaller than even just your average grizzly. Not to mention the tallest human ever recorded, Robert Wadlow, only stood at 8 foot 11 inches, which is still just shy of our grizzlies here. On top of that, the tallest grizzly bear ever recorded could stand at 14 feet tall on its hind legs, so humans are utterly fucked in this department. While grizzly bears do not naturally hunt humans, they do attack if they feel provoked or are caught off guard. However, some grizzlies have been known to hunt and kill hikers and campers, so they aren't entirely off the table. Not to mention, if this species was used as a Nemetrix predator, Kaiba would be actively making the species hunt humans. So this really is more of a case of if a grizzly bear can hunt a human and not whether they actually would. As we've just discussed, they meet both criteria, so this point still stands regardless. In terms of sprinting speed, the average grizzly bear can exceed speeds of around 48 to 56 kilometers per hour for a period of around a few minutes, according to the sources that I could find on the matter. This utterly trumps the maximum human speed and top running performance time. Not to mention that even if a human attempted to flee into water to escape a grizzly, the average human male swimming speed is roughly 5.4 to 9 kilometers per hour, as opposed to the grizzly bear's 8.05 kilometers per hour. However, seeing as the human statistic comes from a competitive setting such as a swimming pool that possesses no natural directional flow of water, I would imagine that a human would be slower when trying to swim through a stream or river, which is where the grizzly bear statistic comes from. Therefore, while not definitive, I believe that the grizzly bear wins in this field as well. You might as well keep your swim bands at home, basically. When it comes to a grizzly bear's resistance to human toolcraft, I would say that it's pretty inarguable that a gun would be a human's best weapon in any combat scenario. And while a grizzly bear getting a direct shot to the heart or lungs will kill it, you have to both consider how difficult shooting such a region would be if the bear is on all fours, and also the fact that even if you do get a good shot in, the bear is likely going to be chugging on adrenaline like a Jujutsu Kaisen fan chugs on Nobara copium. Not to mention the momentum that it would pick up from its sprint towards you. So even if you manage to deal a fatal blow, you then have to hope that the bear dies before it reaches and eviscerates you in a blind rage for shooting it. And again, due to the momentum that it has, even if you do kill it first, its speeding corpse is more than likely to knock you over and likely shatter your bones, considering that the average grizzly bear weighs in at around 270 kilograms, and the average deadlifter can only haul 152 kilograms. And while the greatest deadlifter ever was able to lift 549 kilograms, that is both the greatest deadlifter ever, and also that deadlifter was lifting up something stationary, not getting hit head-on with a 270 kilogram weight clocking in at over 56 kilometers per hour, where the average car traveling at 45 miles an hour is already enough to kill most people in a head-on collision. Though this is likely at least partially due to the fact that the average car weighs over 1,900 kilograms. I'm not entirely sure how much weight correlates to momentum, speed, and force, I'm gonna be honest. Physics was not my strong suit in school. Also, I looked up if a human has ever managed to kill a grizzly bear with martial arts. And while I could find a few examples, the fact that such examples were so sparse leads me to believe that unless you're built on HUMAN genetics, you're more than likely screwed here. Something mind-blowing and honestly a little scary that I didn't know before researching for this video is that apparently grizzly bears are the most intelligent non-human beings in North America, and their intelligence is comparable to that of the great apes. Grizzly bears possess intelligence roughly equivalent to a 3-year-old human, and while that probably doesn't sound all that impressive if you don't really know what animals can and can't do with their intelligence, grizzly bears possess a sense of memory so great that they can remember everything they've ever been taught, told, or experienced. They display bonds of friendship, share resources with one another, and even form societal hierarchies. Basically, grizzly bears are an animal with an incredible aptitude for intellectual growth. And if the main way to avoid predation from a grizzly bear is just to drop to the ground and play dead, then really it's only a matter of time before this species puts 2 and 2 together on the fact that it's kind of weird how humans just fall flat around them and then disappear. Basically, our one advantage in intelligence is meaningless here. Grizzly bears may not be intelligent enough to beat a human's wit and cunning on a first encounter, but with enough time and repeat encounters with humans, I reckon they could win. Next up is a grizzly bear's capability to survive in residential areas. I'm not sure what exactly is giving me this impression, but something tells me that these guys can do just fine in towns and cities. Now for a grizzly bear's aptitude for fighting off multiple humans at once. I mean, come on, do I even need to go over this one? Like, okay, would you rather fight on the same side of a battle as 5 people or 1 grizzly bear? Yeah, I thought so. Can grizzly bears see in the dark? According to the internet, their night vision is, quote, excellent. Not only that, but they're particularly skilled at detecting movement, so unless you stand stiff as EDP outside a schoolhouse, I think you're fucked. And if that wasn't bad enough, this is apparently what grizzly bears look like in the dark, so fat chance you even see the bloody thing really, innit? Now, can grizzly bears climb and or knock down vantage points? Well, they can do the former, so I don't really see the need to be able to do the latter. Once you're up the tree, you're going to be wishing he would knock it down because your escape route's just been sealed off by fucking Yogi Bear. Second to last criteria, are grizzly bears strong enough to tear through human flesh and bone? Effortlessly so. Ever heard of Timothy Treadwell? We'll just say that Winnie got his paws on both him and his honey that night. And finally, are people actually scared of grizzly bears? Well, according to a 2017 survey, 90% of the people asked had archodophobia, which is the fear of bears. Now, it doesn't say who was actually asked this question in this survey, nor how many people were asked, but the statistic would imply that at least 9 out of every 10 people are scared of bears. So yeah, I would say grizzlies scare people. And there you have it, our candidate for the Nemetrix. Now, at long last, we can put the discussion of which Earth-originating species would be the Nemetrix predator for a human. Good shit. Although, if we were to pick a predator to hunt down Ben specifically, we'd obviously just go for a peacock. But with all that said, that's about all I have to say with this video. Thank you so much for watching, please feel free to leave your thoughts and theories in the comments below, and now, let's move into our usual post-video rituals. So, first of all, a big shout out to our channel's Thunderbeasts, Riverjoy, Mininal Muir, Victor Matusik, Charscream AA, and Plasma6. If you want to help support my channel so that I can keep making videos like this, then please consider becoming a channel member and or donating to my PayPal, links in the description. Now let's move into last video's poll, where I asked you guys if you would rather be a Thanagarian, Tamaranian, Martian, or Kryptonian if you lived in the DC universe. With 900 votes, 3% of you said Thanagarian, 23% of you said Tamaranian, Martians just pulled ahead with 24% of the votes, and Kryptonians, unsurprisingly, took the heavy lead with 49% of the total votes. Personally, I would want to be a Martian. Martians have a wide variety of powers, and though fire is their main weakness, if you can overcome that weakness, you end up being just way too strong for your own good. So now let's give a big shout out to everyone who correctly guessed that I chose Martian. So, big shout out to Lightning3891 and Thomas Bowers 5226. Congratulations on guessing correctly, guys. Now let's finish things off by moving into this video's poll. This time, I'm going to be asking you guys a Ben 10 question, unsurprisingly. If you lived in the Ben 10 universe and could own any one of these vehicles, which one would you choose? The Proto Truck, Kevin's car, the Rust Bucket, or Ship? Which piece of advanced tech would you want out of these 4 options? Leave a comment below and or on the poll guessing which one I would choose for a chance to get a shout out in my next discussion video, and with all of that said, I'll be seeing you all next time. Adios, fellow heroes.